Let me ask you something real. Have you ever looked at someone's life and thought, man, they must have gotten lucky, maybe they were born into the right family, landed the perfect job, or just happened to be in the right place at the right time? But here's the truth no one talks about enough. Life doesn't change because of luck. It doesn't change because of talent. And it definitely doesn't change because you waited for the right moment. It changes because you learn. And not just once or twice, but every single day. I'm not talking about going back to school. I'm talking about the kind of learning that you choose. The kind that happens when you pick up a book instead of scrolling your phone. When you listen to a podcast on your drive instead of zoning out to the same playlist. When you seek out conversations with people who are already where you want to be. That's how lives are transformed. Not through chance, but through consistent, intentional growth. Think about it. Every time you learn something new, no matter how small, you unlock a new possibility, a new thought, a new skill, a new way of seeing the world. And over time, those small lessons compound into something powerful. Imagine if, 1 year ago, you started learning something new for just 20 minutes a day. Where would you be now? How much more confident, capable, or clear-headed would you feel? Let me give you a quick example. One of my friends was stuck in a job he hated. Every day felt the same. He kept telling himself, this isn't the right time to make a change. But instead of waiting for the perfect moment, he made a small decision. He committed to learning one new thing a day about a field he was interested in. Not big things, just articles, short videos, quick tips. Fast forward a year later, he didn't just switch careers. He's now leading a team in the exact field he used to just read about. And it all started with learning. That's the thing. The most powerful shifts in life don't always start with a big move, they start with better knowledge. Because once you begin learning, your mind begins expanding. And when your mind expands, your life starts to follow. Let me be clear. This isn't about being the smartest person in the room. It's about being hungry. Hungry to grow. Hungry to evolve. Hungry to live a life that's bigger, deeper, and more meaningful than just getting by. We live in the most information-rich era in human history. There are books, podcasts, courses, TED Talks, mentors all at your fingertips. So ask yourself this. If you're not growing, if you feel stuck or like life is on repeat, what's stopping you from learning something today that your future self will thank you for? Maybe it's a mindset shift. Maybe it's a new skill. Maybe it's finally understanding your own habits and how to break them. Whatever it is, I promise you daily learning will move you forward. Because here's the deal. If you're not learning, you're standing still. And in a world that's constantly changing, standing still is the fastest way to fall behind. But when you choose to learn, you choose to grow. And when you grow, your relationships improve, your income shifts, your decisions get sharper, and doors start opening that you didn't even know existed. So if you're serious about changing your life, stop waiting. Stop wishing. And start learning every day, even if it's just a little, because daily learning is the most powerful habit you'll ever build. Stick with me, because in this video, we're diving deep into how this simple daily habit can create massive results in your life starting right now. Here's something we don't talk about enough. Your level of success in life. It's not based on luck. It's not about where you were born, who you know, or even what job you have right now. It all comes down to one thing. What you know and what you're willing to keep learning. That's right. Your level of knowledge determines your level of success. Now, I get it. Some people might be thinking, wait, but I've got a degree. I've already done the school thing. But here's the deal. Education doesn't stop when school ends. In fact, real education starts the moment you take responsibility for your growth. Because if you stop learning, you stop growing. And if you stop growing, you start falling behind. Let me tell you a quick story. A few years ago, I met two guys both in the same company, both started in the same entry-level role. One of them said, I already know what I need to know. I just need to get noticed. The other one said, I'm going to learn something new every week, even if no one's watching. Guess who's now in a leadership position making 5 times more than when he started? Not the guy who waited to be noticed. The guy who chose to grow. Why? Because value doesn't come from sitting still. It comes from evolving, from learning, from becoming better than you were yesterday. Here's a truth bomb for you. People don't get paid for time. They get paid for value. And the way you increase your value, you increase what you know. Simple as that. Every skill you learn, every insight you gain, every problem you learn how to solve it makes you more useful, more capable, more needed. That's how success works. Not by staying the same, but by constantly improving. Think of anyone you admire: a business leader, an artist, a coach, a creator. They didn't just get lucky. They became valuable. They put in the work, read the books, took the risks, and learned what they needed to learn. Success isn't something you stumble into, it's something you build. Let's break this down even more. There are two types of people in this world. The first type says, "I already know enough. I've got this figured out." They stop reading. They stop asking questions. They stop growing. And slowly, they become stagnant. Their income stays the same. Their opportunities shrink. And their confidence? It fades because the world around them keeps moving forward without them. Then there's the second type of person. The one who says, "There's always more to learn." These people read books. They listen to podcasts. They ask questions. They stay curious even when they already know a lot. And guess what? These are the people who rise. They adapt. They thrive. They lead. Because in a world where most people stop growing, those who keep learning will always be ahead. So, let me ask you this. Are you growing right now? Or are you coasting? Because the harsh truth is, if you're not growing, you're falling behind. I'm not saying you need to have a PhD or spend hours studying every night. But I am saying this. You have a choice. You can settle or you can stretch. And in today's world, self-education is more accessible than ever. You've got audiobooks, online courses, YouTube channels, expert interviews, blogs, free tools right at your fingertips. What used to cost thousands of dollars and years of time can now be learned from your phone for free. The only thing stopping you is you. Let me give you another real example. Sarah, a mom of two, used to work a 9-to-5 job that drained her. She felt stuck, like life was just happening to her. Instead of waiting for someone to offer her a way out, she committed to learning 30 minutes a day before the kids woke up. She learned about digital marketing, content creation, branding. At first, it didn't seem like much. But after a year, she launched her own business, and within 6 months, she was making more than she ever did at her old job. She didn't win the lottery. She didn't get lucky. She learned her way to a new life. And you can too. Here's the mindset shift I want you to walk away with. You don't need permission to grow. You don't need someone to tell you it's time. You don't need perfect timing or a classroom or a formal plan. You just need to say, "I'm ready to become more." Because when you commit to learning every day, your life starts to reflect that commitment. Your conversations become more meaningful. Your opportunities multiply. Your confidence grows. And suddenly, what once felt impossible starts to feel like your new normal. So here's your challenge. For the next 7 days, commit to learning something small every single day. Just 15 to 30 minutes. Read a book. Watch an educational video. Listen to a podcast. Ask someone a smart question. And then, apply what you learn, even in the smallest way. Because that's how real growth happens, not all at once, but one choice at a time. You've got everything you need. You just have to decide that your success is worth investing in. And once you do, there's no limit to how far you can go. Let's talk about something powerful. Your mind. Not just in a motivational way, but literally your mind is the single greatest tool you'll ever have in life. And just like any tool, it needs sharpening. Just like any muscle, it needs training. Your brain is a muscle. The more you challenge it, the more you push it, the more you feed it, the stronger it gets. Now think about this. If you went a year without moving your body, what would happen? You'd feel weak, sluggish, out of shape, right? Well, the same thing happens to your mind if you stop learning. When you don't stretch it, it slows down. It becomes rigid. And soon, the world starts to move faster than you can keep up. But here's the beautiful part. You don't need to make giant leaps to train your brain. All it takes is a daily commitment to learning, even in small doses. Read a few pages of a book. Listen to a podcast on your commute. Learn one new thing every day: a fact, a mindset, a strategy. And over time, that small habit compounds into something massive. Every time you learn, you're not just gathering information. You're building mental strength. You're sharpening your ability to think clearly, make better decisions, and recognize opportunities when they show up. Because let's be honest, life moves fast. Decisions come at you quickly. And the people who win are the ones who are mentally ready to respond, not just react. Let me share something from my own experience. There was a season in my life when I felt stuck, like I had potential but couldn't break through. I wasn't lazy. I was working hard. But something felt off. Then someone told me, if your input doesn't change, your output never will. So I started feeding my mind. Nothing fancy, just 20-30 minutes a day. Books, podcasts, interviews, even YouTube videos like this one. After a few weeks, my mindset shifted. After a few months, my results followed. I was thinking faster, solving problems I used to avoid, and seeing things with clarity I never had before. That's the power of daily learning. Now let's break it down even more. There are 3 major benefits to learning every single day, and these will transform the way you show up in life. 1. It builds unshakable confidence. When you know more, you trust yourself more. You stop second-guessing every move. You start making decisions from a place of strength, not fear. Confidence doesn't come from pretending to have the answers. It comes from doing the work to find them. When you've taken the time to understand something deeply, you walk into rooms differently. You speak with purpose. You lead with clarity. You show up as the person people want to follow, not because you're loud, but because you're solid. 2. It keeps your mind sharp. Let's face it, we're all bombarded with distractions. Social media, news cycles, endless notifications. All of it is designed to scatter your attention. But learning refocuses your brain. It rewires your thinking. It keeps your mind alert, engaged, and ready for action. That's why the most successful people in the world, entrepreneurs, athletes, artists, they all have one thing in common. They never stop learning. It's not about being the smartest in the room. It's about staying sharp enough to see clearly when others are confused, to stay calm when others are overwhelmed, to find solutions when others only see problems. 3. It prepares you for the unexpected. Let's be real, life doesn't follow a script. Things change. People change. Plans fall apart. But the more you learn, the more resilient you become. Because every lesson you absorb becomes a tool in your toolkit. A strategy you can use when life throws a curveball. Think of it like this. If your mind is weak, every challenge feels like a crisis. But when your mind is strong, every challenge feels like a puzzle. You don't panic, you solve. That's how you become mentally tough. Not by avoiding problems, but by preparing your mind daily to handle them. So here's a simple question. Are you training your mind with the same discipline you train your body, or your career, or your schedule? Because your mind controls everything. Your decisions, your focus, your future. And here's the good news. You don't need hours a day to make this work. Just 15 to 30 minutes of focused learning each day will change your entire trajectory. Don't believe me? Try it. Pick one area of your life you want to grow in. Finances, relationships, leadership, health. Now find one source of learning. A book, a podcast, a video series, and commit to it daily for the next 30 days. Track how you feel. Watch how you think. Pay attention to how you respond to problems. I promise you'll feel the shift. Because here's the truth. The world isn't getting easier. The problems aren't getting smaller. But your mind, it can get stronger, smarter, sharper. You just have to make the choice. So stop telling yourself you're too busy. You're not too busy, you're just not prioritizing the thing that actually changes everything. Your ability to think, to decide, to grow, to learn. Start today. Feed your mind. And become the kind of person who's ready not someday, but every day. Because when your mind is strong, so is your life. Have you ever looked at your life and wondered, why do I keep ending up in the same place? Same kind of job, same income, same relationship patterns, same frustrations. If you've ever felt stuck, like life keeps handing you the same problems on repeat, you're not alone. But here's a truth that changed my life, and I think it might change yours too. Every result in your life is a reflection of what you know. Read that again. Your job, your income, your health, your relationships, your habits. They're all directly tied to the knowledge, mindset, and understanding you have right now. And that's not meant to be discouraging. That's meant to be empowering. Because if your current knowledge created your current life, then better knowledge can create a better life. Let me ask you this. If you wanted to earn more money, what would you do? Most people say, I'd work harder. But what if working harder isn't the answer? What if the real shift comes from working smarter, and to work smarter, you need new information? Think about it. If effort alone created success, there would be millionaires on every construction site and every factory floor. But it's not just about effort. It's about strategy. And strategy comes from learning something new, something better. Here's the connection most people miss. Want to change your job? You first need to learn new skills, build new tools, or gain new experience. Want to improve your relationships? You have to learn how to communicate better, listen deeper, and understand both yourself and others. Want to make smarter financial decisions? You need to study money, how it works, how to grow it, how to keep it. In other words, the upgrade you're waiting for starts with upgrading your knowledge. Because the world doesn't just give better outcomes to people who wish harder. It gives them to people who prepare. Let me share a quick story. I knew a guy named Mark. He was in his late 30s, working a decent job, but he felt invisible. Like his life was on autopilot. He didn't hate his job, but he didn't love it either. Then one day, he asked himself a simple question. What do the people I admire know that I don't? That one question lit a fire in him. He didn't quit his job or uproot his life, not right away. He just started reading for 20 minutes a day. Business books, psychology, communication, productivity. A year later, he was in a new role, leading a team with a higher income and a completely different level of confidence. What changed? His knowledge. And that knowledge changed everything else. Let's go deeper. Better knowledge helps you in 3 critical ways. 1. It helps you understand yourself. Most of us go through life reacting instead of reflecting. But when you take time to learn, whether it's through journaling, reading, or just asking better questions, you start to see yourself clearly. You recognize your patterns. You understand your triggers. You identify what truly matters to you. And when you know yourself, you stop chasing things that don't align with who you are. You stop wasting time. You stop settling. You start building a life that fits you, not the one others expect you to live. 2. It helps you make smarter decisions. Let's face it, life is a series of decisions, big and small, and every one of them shapes your future. Should I stay or move on? Should I invest or save? Should I say yes to this opportunity or wait for a better one? When you don't have the right knowledge, those decisions feel overwhelming. You guess. You second guess. And sometimes you make mistakes that cost time, money, or peace of mind. But when you've filled your mind with good information, you start making decisions from a place of clarity, not confusion. You can weigh your options. You can trust your gut because it's backed by insight, not just emotion. 3. It helps you spot opportunities and avoid disasters. Have you ever heard the saying, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity? Well, learning is preparation. And the more you learn, the more prepared you become to see opportunities when they appear, and to avoid mistakes that others walk right into. It's like driving through fog. When you don't know enough, your vision is limited. But when you expand your knowledge, it's like turning the headlights on. Suddenly, you can see what's ahead, the shortcuts, the detours, and the dead ends. That's not luck. That's awareness. And awareness is the real superpower. So let me ask you this. What area of your life feels stuck right now? What result are you unhappy with? And what new knowledge might unlock the next level for you? Because once you answer that, you can stop blaming the system, the past, the economy, or other people. And you can start taking responsibility. That's where real growth begins. Here's the best part. In today's world, knowledge is everywhere. You don't need a fancy degree. You don't need to go back to college. You just need a phone, and internet connection, and the will to grow. There are free videos, free books, podcasts, online courses, conversations with smart people who've been where you want to go. The only thing you need to bring to the table is curiosity and a commitment to learn something valuable every single day. Because here's the truth. If you want to live better, if you want to love better, if you want to lead better, You have to know better. And knowing better starts with learning more. It doesn't take hours. Just start with 15 minutes a day. Make it a habit. And watch how your decisions change. Watch how your confidence grows. Watch how your results evolve. Because when your knowledge improves, your life follows. Always. Let's get real for a moment. There's one truth about growth that's so simple, yet most people miss it. The moment you stop learning is the moment you stop growing. And here's the thing. When you stop growing, you don't just stay where you are. You slowly start to fall behind. Now, you might not notice it right away. It doesn't show up as an alarm bell. It starts quietly. You stop being curious. You start repeating the same habits. You begin to resist change, and before you know it, life feels smaller. Not because the world has shrunk, but because you stopped expanding. Think about this. The world is always moving. Technology evolves. Industries shift. New opportunities rise and old ones fade. And if you're not keeping up by learning, you're not just standing still. You're getting left behind. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you learned something that stretched you? When was the last time you felt uncomfortable in a good way because you were growing? See, comfort is sneaky. It tells you, you're good. You've made it. But the truth is, if you're not growing, you're coasting. And coasting only works downhill. I want to tell you a quick story about someone I once met at a networking event. He was in his mid-50s. Great guy. Tons of experience. But he told me, I just don't understand how the younger people in my company keep getting promoted. So I asked him, when's the last time you learned something new about your industry? He paused, thought about it, then said, honestly, it's been years. That's it right there. See, experience is powerful, but it only gets you so far. Because the future doesn't reward what you used to know. It rewards what you're willing to learn next. And the people who rise in their careers, in their health, in their relationships, they're not the ones who know everything. They're the ones who keep asking questions, who keep staying curious, who keep saying, there's still more I need to understand. Because they know this. Growth isn't a destination, it's a lifestyle. It's something you commit to every single day. Not because you're not good enough, but because you believe you can always become better. Now let me be clear. This doesn't mean grinding 24/7. It doesn't mean overwhelming yourself with endless goals. It just means staying in a learning mindset, reading 10 pages a day, listening to a podcast instead of music on your commute, asking someone for feedback, even if it's uncomfortable. These little habits keep your brain alive. They keep your spirit fresh. They keep your life moving forward. Because here's the truth, the most dangerous phrase you can say is, I already know that. It shuts the door. It kills curiosity. And worst of all, it makes you think there's nothing left for you to grow into. But the most successful people, they say things like, what am I missing here? What can I learn from this? Who can I study to get better? They're not addicted to achievement. They're addicted to improvement. Let's take a look at the most innovative people in the world: entrepreneurs, scientists, athletes. What do they all have in common? They're relentless learners. Steve Jobs was constantly reading and studying human behavior and design. Oprah Winfrey credits books and mentors for shaping her mindset. Kobe Bryant used to watch game tapes for hours, not because he didn't already know how to play, but because he wanted to see what others missed. Success leaves clues. And one of the biggest clues is this: never stop being a student. Now, let's flip the script for a second. What happens when you do stop learning? You lose your edge. You start making decisions based on outdated information. You become reactive instead of proactive. And slowly, things start to slip. Opportunities pass you by. New challenges feel harder to handle. And you start to feel stuck. Not because you're not capable, but because you haven't grown your toolkit. So here's the challenge. Over the next 30 days, make learning a non-negotiable part of your routine. Not because you have to, but because your future deserves it. You can start small. 1 chapter a day. 1 documentary a week. 1 deep conversation a week with someone who inspires you. Do that and watch how your thoughts expand. Watch how your confidence grows. Watch how you start to notice opportunities you used to miss. Because the moment you recommit to learning, you reactivate your growth. And once you do that, there's no limit to what you can become. Remember this: growth doesn't stop because you hit a milestone. Learning doesn't end when you get the degree. Life doesn't wait for those who pause. So don't wait, don't coast, and definitely don't settle. If you want to keep moving forward, keep learning. Because when you stop learning, you stop evolving. And when you stop evolving, you stop becoming who you were meant to be. So stay hungry, stay humble, stay open, because the best version of you is still waiting on the other side of your next lesson. Let me ask you a question. What would happen if you stopped eating for a few days? You'd feel weak, sluggish, disconnected. Eventually, your body would shut down because it can't function without fuel. Now here's the deeper question. What happens when you stop feeding your mind? You may not notice it right away, but slowly, your thoughts become foggy. Your creativity dries up. Your motivation fades. You start living on autopilot, going through the motions without any real sense of purpose or progress. That's because your mind, just like your body, needs nourishment. And the food it craves, knowledge. Let's break this down. Your body runs on calories. Your brain runs on information. And not just any information, the kind that stretches you, challenges you, inspires you. Every time you read something meaningful, every time you listen to a new idea, every time you engage with a perspective different from your own, you're feeding your brain. And the more you feed it, the sharper it becomes. The more alert, adaptable, and resilient you become. But when you stop, just like your body starves without food, your mind begins to starve without knowledge. Now you might be thinking, but I'm not in school anymore. I don't have hours to study. Here's the good news. You don't need hours. You just need intentional moments. Think of learning like mental nutrition. It doesn't take a feast to stay healthy sometimes. All you need is a good snack. Just 15 minutes a day of focused learning. Reading a chapter. Listening to a podcast. Watching an inspiring video like this one. That small dose can completely shift your mindset. Because learning isn't about cramming your brain full of facts. It's about fueling your ability to think better, solve problems, and make smarter choices. Here's a simple example. Imagine you wake up, grab your coffee, and instead of jumping straight into emails or the news, you read a few pages from a personal development book. You feed your mind with clarity, perspective, and purpose before the chaos of the day begins. How do you think the rest of your day would feel? More focused? More grounded? More in control? That's what knowledge does. It primes your mind to lead instead of follow. I remember a time in my life when everything felt dull. Not terrible, just dull. Wake up, work, sleep, repeat. And then one morning, I made a tiny shift. I committed to learning one new thing a day. That was it. No pressure, no perfection. Some days, it was a podcast on leadership. Other days, it was an article on brain health. Sometimes it was simply reflecting on a quote or journaling my thoughts. Within a month, I felt like a new person. Not because I changed jobs or made a huge life decision, but because I changed the way I thought. That's the quiet power of daily learning. It doesn't scream. It doesn't demand attention. But day by day, it rewires your brain. It builds confidence. It increases emotional intelligence. And it unlocks solutions you couldn't see before. Think of your mind like a garden. If you plant good seeds, ideas, insights, strategies, and you water them consistently, you eventually reap a harvest. But if you neglect it, weeds grow, doubt creeps in, frustration takes over. So let's make this practical. What's one way you can feed your mind today? Is it reading 10 pages from a book you've been meaning to start? Is it watching a documentary that expands your worldview? Is it reaching out to someone you admire and asking a thoughtful question? Even 15 minutes of intentional learning can change the way you see the world. And when you change your perspective, you change your path. Here's a mindset I live by. Never go to bed on an empty mind. Just like you wouldn't skip dinner if you were hungry. Don't skip learning if your life feels stuck. Because when you're growing mentally, life starts to move with more clarity and momentum. You begin to recognize patterns. You respond to problems instead of reacting. You become more intentional not just with what you do, but with who you are becoming. And here's the most exciting part. Learning is a gift you can give yourself anytime, anywhere. It's completely in your control. You don't need permission. You don't need to wait for January 1st. You don't need the perfect planner or routine. You just need a decision to stop starving your mind and start nourishing it daily. Because knowledge isn't just power, it's fuel. And when your mind is fueled, nothing can hold you back. So next time you're feeling tired, stuck, or uninspired, ask yourself, have I fed my mind today? If not, it's never too late to start. Because just like a strong body begins with one healthy meal, a strong life begins with one moment of learning. So eat well, live well, and don't forget to feed the one thing that leads it all, your mind. Let's clear something up right now. Success. It's not about being the smartest. It's not about being born with special gifts. It's not about having the perfect resume or a head start in life. Success comes to those who never stop learning. That's the truth. We've been told for so long that talent is the golden ticket, but the real edge, the real separator, is your ability to grow, to adapt, to learn relentlessly no matter where you are or what you already know. Let me ask you something. Who do you admire in your industry, your community, or even in your family? Now ask yourself, did they get where they are because they had all the answers from the start, or because they were willing to learn, ask, stumble, and keep moving? Because every successful person, every entrepreneur, athlete, leader, artist has one thing in common. They are students of life. They study books. They study people. They study their own mistakes. And most importantly, they take action on what they've learned. I'll tell you a story. I once worked with a man named David, super talented guy, naturally gifted. But he plateaued early. Why? Because once he reached a certain level, he stopped learning. He thought he had it figured out. Meanwhile, another colleague of ours, less naturally skilled, a bit quieter, kept asking questions, kept reading, kept improving, kept learning even after the meetings ended. Fast forward a few years, the second guy was leading teams, building businesses, and creating impact. David, still in the same spot, wondering why no one saw his potential. Here's the difference. One person relied on talent. The other built success on a foundation of continuous learning. Let's be real. The world is changing faster than ever. What worked 5 years ago might be irrelevant today. The moment you stop updating your thinking, your skills, your awareness is the moment the world starts to pass you by. But here's the good news. You don't have to know it all. You just have to stay open, stay humble, stay curious. Now, let's get practical. Success isn't about collecting knowledge like trophies. It's about applying what you learn. You can read 100 books on productivity, but if you don't change your habits, your life won't move. You can watch hours of business strategy videos, but if you never try to build anything, you'll stay exactly where you are. You can take course after course, but if you don't take action, knowledge becomes noise. Learning doesn't create results. Applied knowledge does. And that's where most people fall short. They stay in learning mode, waiting to feel ready, waiting for more information. But success, it doesn't reward who knows the most. It rewards who acts on what they know. Let me offer you a mindset shift. Don't just be a learner, be an implementer. When you read something that moves you, write it down. Then ask, how can I use this today? When someone gives you feedback, don't get defensive. Lean in and ask, what can I do with this? When life teaches you a hard lesson, don't just survive it. Ask, what is this trying to show me? That's the real advantage, not just learning from books, but learning from everything. From people, from experiences, from your own failures. That's how you build a life of wisdom, not just information. Let me give you a few examples. Oprah Winfrey reads every single day. She credits reading with shaping her mindset and helping her overcome adversity. Elon Musk learned to build rockets by reading books and asking experts, not by having a degree in aerospace engineering. Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, didn't have a background in fashion or business, but she learned from trial and error, from mentors, from every rejection. These people didn't wait until they were ready. They didn't wait until they were experts. They just kept learning and kept doing. And that's what set them apart. Now here's the kicker. If you want to grow, if you want to succeed in your career, your finances, your health, your relationships, there's one habit you need to build and protect like your life depends on it. Daily learning. Even just 15 to 30 minutes a day. Read a chapter. Watch an inspiring talk. Have a deep conversation. Reflect on your mistakes. Ask a better question. Because the more you learn, the more tools you have. The more tools you have, the more confident you become. And the more confident you become, the more action you take even when things get hard. And that's what success is made of. 1,000 small lessons, followed by 1,000 bold steps. So here's the challenge I want to leave you with. Don't aim to be perfect. Aim to keep learning. Don't just memorize quotes. Live them. Don't wait to feel ready. Start where you are, with what you know, and build from there. Because every level of your life will demand a better version of you. And that version, it's not born out of talent. It's built through growth, grit, and constant learning. Final thought. You may not control everything in life, but you do control how much you learn, how much you grow, and how much action you take because of it. So don't stop learning. Don't stop asking. Don't stop becoming. Because success is never found in what you already know. It's waiting in what you're willing to discover next. Every single day, you make choices. Some are small: what to eat, what to wear, when to reply to that text. Others feel bigger: where to live, whether to take the job offer, how to handle a relationship, what to do with your money. And here's the thing no one tells you in school. Your ability to make good decisions directly shapes your future. Not just your success, but your peace, your relationships, your finances, your happiness. And what determines the quality of those decisions? What you know. Let that sink in. The more you know, the more life experience, insight, and clarity you gain. The better your decisions become. Because every decision is like planting a seed. And whether that seed grows into something strong or weak depends on whether it was planted with wisdom or guesswork. Think about it. Have you ever made a decision you regretted later, not because you were careless, but simply because you didn't know enough at the time? Maybe you trusted the wrong person, took a job that drained you, invested time or money in something that wasn't right, and months or even years later, you looked back and said, "If I had known then what I know now." We've all been there. But here's the good news. You can learn now what you didn't know then and change your next decision. That's the power of gaining knowledge. It's not about perfection. It's about preparation. Let me give you a real example. A friend of mine was considering two job offers. One paid more upfront, but had no real growth path. The other offered mentorship, a better team, and long-term opportunity, but the salary was lower. He almost went with the higher paycheck because, let's be honest, short-term gain is tempting. But then he took a step back. He read articles about career growth. He talked to mentors. He asked questions most people wouldn't think to ask. And in the end, he chose the job with the long-term upside. Fast forward 2 years. He's now leading a division, making more than he would have earned in the first role and doing work that actually excites him. Why? Because he learned before he decided. And that learning gave him the vision to choose wisely, not just quickly. Here's the core truth. Knowledge gives you options. Options give you clarity. And clarity gives you confidence. When you understand the landscape, you're not just reacting, you're leading. When you know the risks and rewards, you stop feeling stuck and start feeling empowered. You stop asking, "What if I fail?" and start asking, "How can I make the smartest move from where I stand?" Let's break down what knowledge really does for your decision-making. 1. Knowledge leads to clarity. When you're unsure, your mind spins. You overthink. You hesitate. You feel overwhelmed. But when you understand the situation, when you have facts, context, and insight, you make decisions with a clear head. Clarity eliminates confusion. And that's a superpower in a noisy, fast-moving world. 2. Knowledge builds confidence. Confidence isn't arrogance. It's not about always being right. It's about trusting your ability to make the next right move. When you've done the work, read the book, ask the questions, gather the insight. You stop second-guessing yourself. You move forward with calm strength. And that kind of quiet confidence, people notice it. They trust it. And more importantly, you believe in it. 3. Knowledge gives you long-term perspective. Most bad decisions come from short-term thinking. The rush for immediate gratification. The fear of missing out. The pressure to react instead of reflect. But knowledge slows you down just enough to think ahead. It helps you ask questions like, Where will this lead a year from now? What are the ripple effects of this choice? Will this bring peace or problems in the long run? And when you start thinking long term, you start building a life that lasts. Now, let's flip the script. What happens when you don't learn? When you make choices based on emotion, guesswork, or assumptions, you end up in cycles. Wrong relationships, dead-end jobs, money mistakes, emotional burnout, and you start wondering why life keeps repeating itself. The truth: life repeats the lessons you refuse to learn. So if you want better outcomes, you need better inputs. And that starts with learning, with reading, with asking questions, with staying humble enough to say, "I don't know yet, but I'm willing to find out." So here's a question for you. What's one decision you're facing right now, big or small? Now ask yourself, do I have all the information I need? Who could I learn from before I decide? What could I read, listen to, or ask that would make this clearer? Because remember, you don't need more time, you need more insight. Insight leads to better action, and better action leads to better results. Here's a mindset I try to live by. Every decision I make today is shaping the quality of my tomorrow. And if that's true, then every moment I spend learning, every moment I choose to seek wisdom instead of rushing, is an investment in a future I'll be proud to live. It's not about avoiding mistakes. You'll still make some. That's part of growth. But when you learn before you leap, you land stronger, you recover faster, you rise smarter. Final thought: you're not here to just react to life. You're here to create it. And creation starts with the choices you make every day. So feed your mind, sharpen your perspective, and never stop learning. Because the more you know, the better you choose and the better your future becomes. Let me say something that might sound bold, but it's true. Your life today is a direct reflection of how you think. Not your circumstances, not your childhood, not the economy, but the way you think, your beliefs, your mindset, your habits, and your perspective. If your thoughts are small, limited, or stuck in the past, your life will stay small, limited, and stuck in the past. But if you change your thinking, if you stretch your mind, you open the door to a completely different kind of life. Because here's the truth: you can't grow your life until you grow your mind. Now, let's break that down. So many people want change. They want better careers, stronger relationships, more peace, more purpose. But they're trying to build a new life with the same old mindset. And it just doesn't work that way. You can't plant new results in old soil. If you want your life to rise, your thinking has to rise first. That's why personal growth isn't optional. It's essential. And it doesn't start with some grand leap. It starts with a quiet, daily commitment to feed and stretch your mind. Want to change your life? Start by changing how you think. And to do that, you have to learn something new every day. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you challenged one of your own beliefs? When was the last time you read something that made you pause and rethink? When was the last time you sat down and said, "What kind of person do I need to become to live the life I want?" Most people don't ask those questions. They just go through life on autopilot, same thoughts, same actions, same results. But the few who do ask, they start to see patterns. They spot possibilities. They grow. Growing your mind isn't just about learning facts or memorizing information. It's about expanding your skills, perspective, mental strength, emotional intelligence, way of seeing failure and setbacks. Because here's what no one teaches in school. The way you think about problems determines how you solve them. The way you view failure decides whether it defeats you or develops you. The way you respond to life's hard moments determines how far you go. And all of that is shaped by your mindset. Here's a personal story. Years ago, I went through a really tough season. I had goals, big ones, but nothing was working. I kept hitting walls. I blamed my job, my timing, even the people around me. Until one day, I heard a mentor say something that hit me like a truck. Your outer world will never exceed your inner world. Boom! I realized my life wasn't stuck because of what was outside me. It was stuck because of how I was thinking inside me. So I made a decision. I would grow my mind every day, no matter what. Not by cramming hours of study, but by consistently doing small things that stretched me. A podcast on mindset. A chapter from a book on leadership. 5 minutes of reflection. Asking better questions instead of repeating old answers. And you know what? My life started to shift not because life got easier, but because I got stronger. Let me share 3 ways growing your mind will absolutely transform your life. 1. It develops skills that move you forward. Every new skill you learn, whether it's communication, leadership, creativity, or emotional regulation, becomes a tool in your toolbox. And the more tools you have, the more capable and confident you feel when life throws something at you. Want to grow your career? Learn how to lead people. Want better relationships? Learn how to listen and communicate deeply. Want to start something new? Learn how to think creatively and manage risk. 2. It builds a mindset that sees failure as fuel. Let's be honest, failure is inevitable. But how you see it makes all the difference. People who grow their mind don't fear failure, they learn from it. They don't quit after a setback, they adapt and rise. Why? Because they've trained their brain to ask, what can I take from this? What's the lesson here? And that mindset? It's worth more than any degree or certification. 3. It rewires how you see yourself. The more you grow mentally, the more you begin to let go of limiting beliefs. You stop telling yourself stories like, I'm not smart enough. I wasn't born for this. It's too late for me. And you start replacing them with truths like, I can figure this out. I've grown before I can grow again. Every day is a new chance to rise. That's the power of expanding your mind. You stop shrinking to fit your old identity and start becoming the person your future needs you to be. So here's the challenge. For the next 30 days, do something every day that stretches your mind, even if it's just for 15 minutes. Read, reflect, ask better questions, write your thoughts down, have conversations that challenge you, watch videos that open your eyes, not just entertain you. Because every time you grow your mind, you grow your life. You don't need more time. You don't need more motivation. You don't need the perfect conditions. You just need a decision. A decision to grow. A decision to learn. A decision to shift the way you think so you can shift the way you live. Because your current life is a product of your past thinking. But your future life? That starts the moment you decide to expand your mind. Grow your mind. Grow your life. And never look back. Let's start with this truth. There is no such thing as an unsolvable problem, only problems we don't yet understand. That might sound bold, even frustrating, if you're going through something hard right now. But hear me out. Life will throw challenges your way. That's not a question. But the difference between people who break under pressure and those who rise is what they know. Because the right knowledge, not just information, but insight, has the power to turn a breakdown into a breakthrough. Have you ever been in a situation that felt hopeless? Maybe it was financial stress, a career crossroad, a health scare, a broken relationship, or maybe it was just the deep, nagging feeling that something in your life needed to change, but you didn't know where to start. We've all been there. But let me ask you something. What if the answer was already out there, and you just didn't know it yet? That's what knowledge does. It opens doors you didn't even know existed. Every problem in your life becomes easier to handle when you learn more about it. It's not about being a genius. It's about becoming a student of your own challenges. Let me give you an example. A few years ago, a friend of mine was buried in credit card debt. He felt overwhelmed, embarrassed, stuck. He kept saying, I just need to make more money. But the real issue wasn't income. It was awareness. So he started learning. He read personal finance books, watched free videos, talked to people who had turned their situations around. And what did he discover? It wasn't about working more, it was about changing how he spent, how he budgeted, how he thought about money. Within a year, he was out of debt. Not because he won the lottery, but because he had the right knowledge. Here's something that's changed my life. When you focus on learning, your problems start to shrink not because they disappear, but because you become bigger than them. Let that sink in. Knowledge gives you leverage. It gives you tools. It gives you perspective. Because most of the time, what keeps us stuck isn't the size of the problem. It's our lack of clarity about what's really causing it. That's why the right knowledge doesn't just fix the symptoms. It helps you see the root of the issue. It's easy to treat the surface. You're burned out, gives take a vacation. You're broke, gives get a side hustle. Your arguing with your partner gives blame stress. But surface-level solutions don't last, because they don't get to the core. When you go deeper, when you study, reflect, and ask better questions, you stop reacting and start solving. So how do successful people approach problems? Simple. They don't panic. They don't complain. They don't freeze. They get curious. They ask, what do I not yet understand about this? And then they go learn. Whether it's through books, mentors, podcasts, failures, or quiet reflection, they dig until they find a better answer. That's not luck. That's discipline. And it's something you can start doing today. Here's a mental shift I want to give you. Every problem is a puzzle, and knowledge is the missing piece. Don't be afraid of the problem. Be afraid of staying blind to it. Ask better questions. What is this trying to teach me? Who has solved this before? What am I assuming that might not be true? Where can I go to learn something new about this? Sometimes, one idea, one conversation, one page of a book is all it takes to shift everything. Let me give you one more example. I met a woman who was struggling to grow her small business. She had passion, a good product, but no growth. She thought the problem was marketing. But after learning more about business fundamentals, she realized her pricing model was flawed. Her messaging wasn't clear, and she hadn't studied customer behavior. She didn't need a new Instagram strategy. She needed a deeper understanding of business. Once she learned the right things she didn't even know she needed, her results skyrocketed. The problem wasn't her business. It was her blind spot. So here's the real takeaway. You don't need to avoid problems. You don't need to pretend everything's fine. You just need to equip yourself with better knowledge. Because when you do, problems become lessons. Lessons become skills. And those skills build a version of you that can handle anything. You don't rise by avoiding hard things. You rise by understanding them, then solving them. And you can't solve what you don't understand. But you can understand anything if you're willing to learn. So the next time life hands you a challenge, don't just ask, why me? Ask, what do I need to learn to get through this? Because the right knowledge, it doesn't just solve problems. It transforms you into someone who's no longer afraid of them. Let me tell you something I've learned from watching people who truly succeed, not just in their careers, but in their relationships, mindset, and overall life. Life has a way of rewarding those who never stop learning. Not just with diplomas, not just with promotions, but with something even more valuable. New opportunities, better relationships, a deeper understanding of who they are and what they're truly capable of. And the best part? This reward system isn't reserved for the lucky, the wealthy, or the naturally gifted. It's available to anyone who decides to show up every day with a curious mind and a humble heart. You see, learning isn't just what we did in school. It's not limited to classrooms or textbooks. Learning is a lifelong mindset. It's the decision to keep evolving, to keep asking questions, to keep stretching beyond what you know today so you can live a better tomorrow. Because here's the truth no one tells you. You don't get paid for what you know. You get paid for what you've learned to apply consistently and wisely. Let me ask you this. Have you ever noticed that the people who seem to get ahead in life, they're not always the smartest or the most charismatic or even the hardest working, but they are often the ones who keep learning. They read, they listen, they observe, they reflect, they grow. And because they grow, life keeps handing them new rewards. Here's how it shows up. 1. New opportunities begin to find you. The more you learn, the more value you bring. And when you bring value, people notice. Suddenly, someone's inviting you into a project. Someone's offering you a leadership role. Someone's trusting you with a responsibility you never thought you were ready for. But guess what? You were ready because you kept learning when no one was watching. And that quiet investment in yourself, that's what makes you the obvious choice when opportunity knocks. 2. Your relationships start to shift for the better. Let's be honest, strong relationships don't come from charm. They come from growth. When you're learning emotionally how to listen, how to communicate, how to set boundaries, you stop repeating old patterns. You become someone who understands people on a deeper level. You attract better friendships. You resolve conflicts faster. You connect in ways that feel real, not forced. And suddenly, the people around you reflect the person you're becoming, not the one you used to be. 3. You start to understand yourself deeply. This is probably the biggest reward of all. The more you learn, the more you realize what you want, what you're capable of, what you value, and what you're no longer willing to settle for. That kind of self-awareness, that's the compass that helps you navigate this chaotic world with confidence. You stop needing external approval. You stop chasing things that don't matter. You begin building a life that actually feels like yours. And here's what I love most about learning. It's the one investment that never fails. You can lose a job, lose money, even lose people. But what you learned along the way, that's yours forever. You carry it into every room, every decision, every chapter of your life. And it compounds. One book leads to a new idea. One idea leads to a new skill. One skill leads to a new opportunity. And before you know it, your entire life has shifted. Let me give you an example. I know a man who grew up in a rough neighborhood. No college degree, no connections, just hustle and a hunger to learn. He started listening to podcasts about business on his commute, started reading for 20 minutes before bed, started asking successful people for advice instead of pretending he knew it all. 10 years later, he owns a multi-million-dollar company, not because he got lucky, but because he kept learning, day by day, quietly, relentlessly, and life, it rewarded him. Again and again. Here's something you can take with you today. Knowledge is power, but applied knowledge, that's unstoppable. Every day you learn something new, even for just 10 minutes. You're building invisible momentum. You're becoming the kind of person life wants to reward. So let me challenge you with this. For the next 30 days, choose one thing you can learn each day. Maybe it's a new word, a new concept, a better way to communicate, a healthier habit, a podcast, a video, a conversation, a page from a book. It doesn't have to be big. It just has to be consistent. Because over time, that tiny habit, it will unlock doors you didn't even know existed. Final thought. If you keep learning, life will keep rewarding you. Not always with money, not always with applause, but with something far more powerful. Growth, clarity, capability, and the quiet confidence that comes from becoming better than you were yesterday. So wherever you are right now, whether you're thriving or struggling, don't stop learning. Your future self is counting on it. Let's end where everything truly begins, with learning. Not the kind tied to grades or degrees. Not the kind you do because someone told you to, but the kind that comes from within, from a quiet decision you make every day to grow. Because learning every day isn't just a habit, it's a lifestyle. It's the roadmap to a better life. It's the difference between feeling stuck and feeling empowered, between drifting through your days and designing your future, between simply existing and truly becoming. Think about it for a second. What separates the ordinary from the extraordinary? What's the real gap between people who merely get by and those who rise, lead, and inspire? It's not luck. It's not privilege. And no, it's not even talent. It's the willingness to learn every single day. The people who create real success in life don't stop when things get comfortable. They don't say, "I already know enough." They keep asking, "What's next? What more can I understand, improve, refine, master?" They read when others scroll. They listen when others tune out. They reflect when others react. They don't just learn to impress. They learn to evolve. Let me be honest with you. The biggest breakthrough in your life is not going to come from one big opportunity. It's going to come from the small decisions you make when no one is watching. Like choosing to read instead of complain. Choosing to listen instead of defend. Choosing to ask questions instead of assuming you already know. Those moments, they add up. They shape you. And eventually they separate you from everyone who stayed the same. Here's what I believe. If you learn something new every day, just one thing, you will not stay the same person for long. Because learning creates movement. Movement creates momentum. And momentum, that's what builds success. But there's something else you should know. Learning alone is not enough. It's what you do with what you learn that defines your future. You have to take action. You have to apply. You have to be bold enough to live what you've learned even when it's uncomfortable. Even when it means leaving behind the old version of you. That's where transformation happens. Not in the information, but in the integration. So here's the truth, plain and simple. A better life doesn't come from more motivation. It comes from more education and execution. If you want better relationships, learn how to communicate. If you want more confidence, learn how to keep promises to yourself. If you want success, learn how to be consistent when motivation fades. Because ultimately, the quality of your life will never rise higher than the quality of your thinking. And the quality of your thinking? It's shaped by what you choose to learn every single day. Let me leave you with this. The world doesn't reward the loudest voice. It rewards the sharpest mind. Success doesn't come to those who hope it will happen. It comes to those who prepare for it through growth, through humility, through learning. So don't just chase success. Become the kind of person who success is drawn to. That starts now. That starts today. That starts with a commitment to never stop learning. Final reminder: read the book, ask the question, watch the video, reflect on the mistake, seek the mentor, stay open, stay curious, stay hungry. Because if you do, life will open up in ways you can't even imagine yet. You'll become more than just successful. You'll become wise, strong, grounded, unstoppable. And that is a life truly well lived.